We are live. Wow. Here we go. What I didn't realize when I started a LinkedIn Live was that I wouldn't be able to see anyone else on the call and I wouldn't be able to talk to anyone else on the call. So it's kind of me just talking to the void at the moment. When you join, or if you're watching this later, I'd love to hear from you where you're joining us from around the world. So right now it is midday in France where I am. It's, I think, 8 o'clock on the east coast of Australia. So you might have a baby reindeer marathon lined up on your Netflix, or you might be stuck at the desk doing some work. Otherwise, for people joining us from the UK, might be time for a morning cuppa. So before we start, really the purpose of today is for this to be quite a hands-on session. Ideally, this isn't a lecture. It's more of a workshop. Want to get you involved, thinking about your personal brand and how you can use that to achieve your objectives. G'day, Kim from Lisbon in Portugal. Good to see you, mate. This one-way communication style is a little bit unusual, I must say. Got Brisbane, you got Harry in Sydney. Hey Z, thank you for joining briefly. Good to see you. So if you're on your computer, you might want to take this time to open up like a blank email or a blank Word doc or even a pen and paper so you can write down your brain farts as we go, because this is a hands-on kind of interactive session. If you're on your phone, no stress, just follow along and I'll share the link to the workbook that we go through. I'll share that after the call. There's two things we're going to do today. So we're going to define your personal brand in a really simple way. And then we're going to spend some time, or you're going to spend some time, updating your LinkedIn profile to reflect that brand in a way that's going to help you attract the opportunities that you're trying to attract. Before we do that, maybe just to set the scene a little bit. Who am I? So I'm Joe Mackay. I'm a LinkedIn ghostwriter and thought partner. And so I help execs, consultants, and founders to define their personal brand and create content for LinkedIn. So in the last 2 years, I've worked with a bunch of super smart people to help them figure out what their personal brand is and then how to tell their story using LinkedIn. And these guys have used their personal brand to create new opportunities for themselves, whether that's finding new clients for a business, launching a side hustle, getting into keynote speeches or guesting on podcasts, or some have even joined board roles or advisory gigs as a result of thinking about their personal brand in a different way and then presenting that brand on LinkedIn. So that's a little bit about me. And I guess how I came to find this world of personal branding. So back in March 2022, I'd quit my job. My wife was super pregnant with our second child. And I was really just trying to figure out what comes next. Who am I? What am I good at? What are the skills that I've got that are transferable? And probably more importantly, what do I want to be doing next? I was kind of sitting there procrastinating, trying to update my LinkedIn profile. And I was looking back at the experience section and all the stuff that I'd done. And I realized that my career journey kind of looked like this, and this might be familiar. This was very much my career journey. Lots of different things not really related. And I felt I just didn't have a consistent, clear, coherent way to tell my story. I'd studied civil engineering and economics. I'd worked in procurement and in government. I'd worked in sports marketing and events for a few years, management consulting. And it was just this sea of different aspects of me and my career story. And then the comparison kind of starts. I start comparing myself to other people around me who seem to have it all figured out. I compare myself even to my parents. My dad was a lawyer in a bank for his career. My mum's an accountant, and that's her thing. And I just kind of felt a little bit stuck. And I'd love to hear from you in the chat. Maybe this image might feel like your career journey as well. Are you kind of struggling to define your skills and your strengths and really what you're looking for? Just let me know with a comment if this one resonates with you. I think this is kind of a generational thing. The data is there and it shows that for us as millennials or even Gen X and Gen Z, we are going to have more job roles and more careers within our career than any generation before. And so that means the story and our brand is kind of harder than ever to tell, I guess, succinctly. And you kind of get to this tipping point where you've done a bunch of different things and it's harder and harder to find that common thread and explain it clearly. And so if you're on this session, like if you're thinking about this stuff now, you probably have a new opportunity in mind, right? There's either a new job or a new business or a new goal that you're wanting to achieve. And so whoever it is and whatever that goal is, you're going to need to be able to tell that story in a succinct and clear way to be able to get that opportunity for yourself. You need to be able to convey that message. And I can see a few comments in here. Kim, who's still a bit young to tell, but this definitely resonates. Taf, thank you for joining. It is an interesting journey figuring it out. And that's what we're going to do today is start looking at how we can kind of detangle the mess of our career stories and start thinking about a brand in a simple way. And another person on LinkedIn just sharing they feel stuck even though they've been working for several years, struggling to rise up the corporate ladder. Absolutely. Like the world of work is more complex and more competitive than ever before. And so being able to articulate what you do really well, what you do better than other people is a great way to hopefully help you advance in your career in whatever that next opportunity looks like for you. So that's how I came to stumble across personal brand. And I realized that clear message is what I needed. That was what was going to help me. And actually the act of thinking through that was going to help me to realize what I want to be doing, where I want to be going. And so I moved into this world of personal branding. Now I am skeptical about personal branding. And I've called this session Personal Branding for Skeptics. And the reason I'm skeptical, maybe just to start with a couple of definitions. So your personal brand is a noun, right? It's a possession. It's something that I believe we all have. It's your reputation. So we all have a personal brand already. And ultimately, the main driver of our reputation amongst the people who know us, the thing that's going to influence what they think and feel and say about us when we're not in the room is, are we doing a good job? And are we good to the people around us? At the end of the day, that's going to be the biggest driver of your reputation, regardless of what your LinkedIn profile looks like or anything else that you do. Your reputation is going to be driven by, I guess, what you're like as a person. And so the idea of personal branding is an activity, right? So I see we all have a personal brand, the noun, we all have a reputation. And then personal branding is a verb. It's a set of steps that you can take to amplify that reputation and to share it with a new audience. And so I get skeptical because you'll see the LinkedIn gurus saying be vulnerable and be authentic and just share more of your story. And the reality for me is no amount of personal branding will change your reputation. All we can do is amplify the reputation that you've already got with the people that know you. And that's really the starting point. So I think that's where I just kind of take it with a grain of salt, some of the things that you might see on LinkedIn and just general messaging around personal branding. Really just focusing on doing a good job and being good to be around is kind of the starting point. And from there, you can look at how you amplify your reputation. Lucille, thanks for sharing. So the idea of personal brand feels confusing, not actually sure what it means and how to build or change it if needed. Definitely true. And so for me, personal brand is your reputation, right? And when you start out, that reputation is driven by the people that know you already. They'll have an idea or an opinion of you. I think the way you then use personal branding to actually build it or to shift it is you kind of need to be that new person or that better person that you want to be day to day. And then we can do things to amplify that reputation. But ultimately, your personal brand and your reputation is driven by, I guess, the work that you do and the people that you're around. So with a healthy dose of skepticism, I want to just jump in and let's see if we can start defining your personal brand. We're going to start with a warm-up. I'm going to close this for a second. Before we get into the exercises, I want you to kind of be kind to yourself through this. So encourage yourself to write down everything that comes into your head. So if you've got that blank document open or you've got a pen and paper next to you, try not to self-edit. Just let it all come out. Obviously, nothing that you write down is going to be published or shared. So the more kind of openly you can just write down whatever comes to mind, the more effective these exercises are going to be. So embrace the bad first draft, write it all down, whatever comes into your head, make sure you write it down and be kind to yourself. So let's go with a quick warm up. There's 5 questions for you to think about. Jot down the first responses that come into your head. Question 1, what do people ask you for advice or help with most often? This could be a sign of something that you're actually quite good at, your superpower. What do you notice that no one else sees, whether that's in meetings or in interactions with colleagues or in written communication? What are the things around you that you notice that other people don't seem to notice? G'day, Ben. Thank you for joining us. Hope you've got baby reindeer on pause. What's your biggest pet peeve? Think about this probably in a work context. Often when something frustrates us, it's because it contradicts one of our key values. Something really annoys us. It's because it goes against one of our core values. So flip that frustration around and that will point to one of your core values. What do you think makes you great at what you do? Whatever that is. And then the last question there, I use famous in inverted commas. So this isn't about what do you want to become a celebrity for or fame amongst the general public, but what do you want to be known for? And what's the impact that you want to have? It might just be an impact on your family and your friends. It might be a bigger scale impact than that. But what is that impact you want to have amongst the people that know you or know of you? Write it all down, whatever comes into your head. There's no wrong answer. Give you another few seconds just to think about these. And now we're just starting to move our mindset into reflecting on yourself, your skills, your strengths, And we're going to use these responses to start to think about your personal brand. Okay. So we've done the warm up, got your juices flowing. Let's get into your brand words. So again, the gut response is the best response. So whatever comes into your head first, write this down. Just write down 10 words you'd use to describe yourself. Don't overthink it. And once you've got your 10, review that list and pick up to 5 that you think are the best fit. And so for me, these 3 to 5 words, this is probably as simple and as complex as we need to make your personal brand. These things can start to give you a good handle on how you want to position yourself and what you want to be known for. And so if anyone's feeling brave and you'd like to share in the comments, feel free to just drop in what are 1 or 2 or even all of the words that you found for yourself. Appreciate this is a slightly open forum and it might be hard to do so that's completely fine. But if you're feeling brave, then fire away in the comments. Let's move into the next part of the session. And this is going to be homework. And I'll share this workbook with everyone on the call after the session. But we talked earlier about your brand being, your personal brand really being your reputation, right? So by definition, it's driven by what other people think of you. So we actually need to validate and check what the people around us think. Thank you, Kim, for sharing. So a couple of that came to mind for you were caring and honest. I like that. Good on you for sharing. So if we want to take what we've mapped out for ourselves in terms of our brand words, let's sense check that with the people that know us. And so this exercise that you're going to do for homework can be quite a life affirming exercise. If you've got good people around you in your life, then you'll hopefully get some warm, fuzzy feelings when you go through this. But just ask 5 or maybe 10 of the people closest to you that exact same question. You know, what 3 to 5 words would they use to describe you? I've supplied a message template there you can use, but try and pull together a cross section of friends, family, co-workers, maybe ex-co-workers, to get a feel for what's out there. Tatafu, thank you for sharing your 10. There's a good mix there. Good luck with refining those down to 3 or 5 words. Thank you for sharing. And so do a pulse check with the people that know you best. And then in the workbook, I've supplied some reflections that you can do. They might think of things that you haven't thought of. They might see you in a different way. And this is why it's so important to check. You might see some themes that emerge across the group. You might see some areas that are aligned with what you've thought or some areas that are quite different. And so once you've kind of done that pulse check, go away and update if you need to, incorporate any of their feedback and make some changes. And that becomes your set of brand words. So a quick recap. We've got your brand as defined by you. You're then going to ask how the people around you see your reputation and see your personal brand. What do we do with this information? What's the point? And so for me, personal branding has always been a means to an end. Like it's a tool that you can use to achieve what you want to achieve. And we get to decide for ourselves what is that achievement we want? What's that future state that we have in mind? We get to decide what it looks like. And so if you're on this session, if you're going through this workbook, you've got something in mind, right? There's something that you're working towards, whatever it might be. And so this is the time, again, there's a bit of homework through the day today to daydream and kind of land some of these ideas on paper. You know, what is that ideal future state? Where do you want to be in 2 to 3 years? If you waved a magic wand and you could just wake up in your ideal life 2 years from now, what would it look like? Who's there? What kinds of things are you doing? Even, what are the things you're not doing anymore? Reflect on what that ideal scenario could be. Because ultimately this is what we're building a personal brand for, to help us achieve something, to help us move closer to the future that we want for ourselves. So write that ideal future down in as much detail as you can. Like putting it on paper will help it feel more real and will help you reflect and go, yeah, okay, that feels right. And then you want to kind of hold up the brand words that you've chosen for yourself and check how do they align with that future. And a really key step to take once you've done that is thinking about audience or network. So let's say that ideal future state for you is a promotion in your current company. For you to get that promotion, you might need to get on the radar of more senior people in your business, right? So there might be an audience that's centered around your current company. That might be the audience, the people that need to know who you are and what your personal brand is for you to go and achieve that promotion. If your ideal future is, launching a business and going out on your own and doing something different, it might be a brand new audience of people that you don't know yet that you're going to need to reach out to and share your personal brand with and kind of tell your story to. So if you take your ideal future and you kind of work backwards from there and think about who needs to know this story, who needs to know me and my brand for me to have a chance of achieving that reality, that's going to guide how you approach your personal branding journey. So if it is a new audience or a new business or a new venture, maybe LinkedIn is a platform to connect with a new audience. Or if it's a new role, you might want to be using a tool like LinkedIn to create a new audience. If it's climb the ladder in your current business, you might be more focused on in-person type or in-company led personal branding activity to strengthen your reputation where you already are. So thinking about where you want to get to and who's the audience related to that is going to help you figure out what to do next. So maybe just a quick pause, because I've done a lot of talking and I can't see anyone else. So it's a little bit weird, but there's kind of 3 things in play here. So we've defined your personal brand for yourself. You've got some homework to go and figure out how other people around you are thinking about you and your personal brand. And then you've got some homework to think about what's that ideal future state? What do you want to use your personal brand to help you achieve? So now we're going to focus on a really popular and really kind of useful tool to help you move in that direction and arrive at a new destination. And of course, that tool is the big blue box of LinkedIn. I think we should talk about LinkedIn. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. The really interesting thing with LinkedIn, and maybe just let me know in the chat roughly how long you've had your LinkedIn profile for. Like, when did you sign up for LinkedIn? For me, I think I joined LinkedIn in maybe 2008. And a lot of us will be in a similar boat. We've had LinkedIn for a really long period of time. We kind of started out with a profile and with a setup on LinkedIn whenever we joined. But the platform has evolved so much in that time that we haven't necessarily adapted our approach to go with it. And so when I think about LinkedIn, I remember back when I was a kid and I would go to the doctor and I'd sit in the waiting room with mum and look across the opposite wall, and it was this array of certifications and qualifications and really like impressive stuff, big brass frames with the red wax stamp on there from some impressive institution. And it was an impressive display. It was almost intimidating, but the goal was to impress of how qualified and experienced these doctors were. And that's what LinkedIn used to be like. It used to be about impressing your network with all the stuff you've done and all the things you've achieved. When I go with my daughter or my son to the doctor, local doctor here today, you walk in and there's finger paintings on the wall and there's Father's Day cards and there's family photos. It's not so much an impressive space, but it's a much more inviting space. And that's how LinkedIn in 2024 is designed. And I think that's the winning strategy on LinkedIn in 2024. It's about inviting people into your network. It's not about impressing people. We are the most educated, qualified, professionally skilled generation in history. So the race to impress people is a tough race. But if you can invite people into your network, into your personal brand, that's what can help you stand out amongst everyone else. So I'd love to hear from you. If you think about your LinkedIn profile as it is today, give yourself a score from 0 to 5. How inviting is your LinkedIn profile right now? So someone's shared they've had LinkedIn since 2018. A lot has changed with the platform since then. And I think most of us, when we joined LinkedIn, we probably took our CV, pasted it into the profile. And CVs are usually written to be super impressive and to kind of amplify all your achievements and make you look and feel really impressive. So most of the LinkedIn profiles I see are much more impressive than inviting. So we're going to do some work now to reshape your LinkedIn profile using the work you've already done and make your LinkedIn profile much more inviting and ready for 2024 and beyond. I'll share my screen again. So we know LinkedIn's a powerful tool, right? It's always on. You can share your personal brand at scale. You can reach new audiences. So there's a lot of great reasons to consider LinkedIn in your kind of personal branding strategy. But it's changed, as we've talked about. And so let's look at a couple of examples, right? Like, so an impressive example, and this is a real example from a client's profile. Jen has extensive experience in leading and implementing sustainable, complex organizational transformation programs, delivering enhanced performance and improved organizational health. It's just, in one way, it kind of feels familiar and comfortable because we use so much of this corporate speak all the time, but it just doesn't, the message is lost. It's so hard to get your head around what this actually means. So this would be an example of an impressive LinkedIn statement. If we think about something that's a bit more inviting, I'm responsible for delivering complex change programs. These change programs are people-led improving performance over a long period of time. Much shorter, says the same thing, communicates the same experience. It's easier on the brain. It just sinks in much more effectively. And so there's 5 things that I've found that really make the difference between an impressive and a boring LinkedIn profile. Tough, you've rated yourself 1 out of 5, which you're definitely not alone in that. That's pretty common. But I think there's 5 things that are really detracting from your LinkedIn profile most likely right now. The bio might be written in the third person. He, she, Joe did this. We want to be writing in the first person. So I. There's a lot of passive voice. Joe has demonstrated experience in blah, blah, blah. Joe is. Use active voice, much more forceful and direct. And it's the way we speak. There's lots of jargon, overly complex words instead of just clear, simple language that's easy on the brain. Think about when most people are looking at LinkedIn. They've either got 3 minutes spare in between meetings, or they're on the train, or they're doom scrolling in bed just before they go to sleep, or they're on the toilet. And so we're all bombarded by corporate speak. If you can make your content and your profile easy on the brain, it's much more likely to sink in. I see slabs of text, like paragraphs and paragraphs. What we want to do is space out our content, just spread it out, give it room to breathe. Use shorter sentences, use lists if you can, use bullets. And I think we need to personalize. We need to reveal a little bit of ourselves and our personal brand and our story. Otherwise we're going to get stuck with a generic profile that anyone with our job title could copy and paste and say the same thing. And so if we look at your about section of your LinkedIn profile, this is kind of the meat, the most important part of your profile for most people. I think an inviting about section covers 3 areas: what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and then potentially, if you want to, you can share a little bit about what else you do outside of work. So we're going to use the answers you've already shared to the questions in the warm-up. So you've already done some thinking about your skills and experience, and we're going to actually use those responses to update your LinkedIn profile now. So again, first draft, you're not going to publish anything. So I would embrace just writing it all out, letting it flow as much as you can, and then edit later. So if we look at the what you do section, right, as the kind of opening part of your about section, you probably already have something along these lines in your profile. You've probably talked about, what your job role is, your KPIs and responsibilities and things like that. So when you look at this to be more inviting, try and chunk them up into a more strategic approach. And if you need to list specific stuff, then use bullet points. And the inspo you can use for this part of your profile is, what do people ask you for advice with most often? And so this is going to move you away from just the run-of-the-mill daily activities of your work and much more about the skills that you bring. And so there are some examples here. Don't be afraid to use lists and bullets if you need to. But simple is always better. Thanks for joining, Kim. Cheers. So you can use this to think about what you do in your profile. The next section is how you do it. How do you approach what you do? And so the inspiration you can use from the warm-up here is, what makes you great at what you do, and what do you notice that no one else sees? These are going to give you signposts into how you actually achieve what you achieve. And here are some examples. And what you can see here is we're not too heavy on the jargon. We're still professional, we're polite, but we're trying to keep this simple and make it easy on the brain wherever we can. So have a think and take your answers to these two questions and see how you can flesh them out to explain how you do what you do in your current role. And then the third part of a good inviting about section is going to be why you do it. What's driving you deep down? And the reference you can use here is what do you want to be famous for? What's the impact that you want to have on the world? And I've shared a couple of examples here that might give you some signposts towards this. And the why can be very challenging. If we're in a role or a situation that we don't necessarily feel super passionate about, it can be hard to pinpoint that why and how it aligns with where we are. But if you think about what's that impact you want to have on the world, hopefully there's a way you can connect that to your current situation. What are the things that make you excited about the work that you do? That often leads to your why. And then the kind of fourth and the optional section in your about or your bio is what else you do outside of work. You could list them here. Different things you've done in your career. It could be volunteering work, or if your family is important to you, there's kind of an option there to just share a little bit more of your story and personalize it a little bit. So I'm conscious that it might be late at night where you are, or you might have a few different things on the go. And this kind of stuff, thinking about ourselves and our brand and then writing about ourselves can be challenging. So I'll share this workbook with you. You can work through this in your own time. And hopefully that helps you start to think about your personal brand and how you could maybe bring your LinkedIn profile into the future, into 2024. I've also got in the workbook a bunch of editing tips just to think about your profile, making sure your personal brand words are in there, and just some guidance on the other parts of your profile, which we won't cover off in the session today, but you can refer to in your own time and bring your LinkedIn profile up to date. That's the end of the content that I wanted to share today. I hope there was some value in the session. I'm going to hang around for a little while. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll answer them as best as I can. I can see there's quite a lag on when I talk and when the comments come through. So I'll hang around for a little while. If you don't have any questions, thank you so much for being part of the session. Hope you got something out of it, and I will send you a link to the workbook. Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate that, Amaya. Not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, but thank you for your feedback. Thanks, Lucille. I hope you're well. All right. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.